7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Full course yellow is deployed. Full course yellow is deployed.
Yes, if this is all working, hello everybody and welcome to another edition of Full Course Yellow in Pit Lane's weekly get-together where we talk about all things motorsport and what a weekend we've had. Well, we finally managed to find out who McLAREN is favouring in the battle for this year's World Championship. Yes, it is, of course, Max Verstappen. We'll be talking about that a little bit later on. But we'll probably start off the program, locally, because we had a grand final on the weekend. And the grand final had an upset win. It's like Geelong wins all the home and away matches, but loses the big one. Well, that's what happened on the streets of Adelaide with the new grand final situation. Congratulations to Chaz Mostert for his victory. As you may notice, or I don't know if you can actually see at the moment, we've got new software, new streaming software that we're using tonight, and I'm really having trouble sort of finding my way around it. But if I press this button here, I hope that I will find both Peter Johnson and Mark Jones, and lurking somewhere in the background, or audio only at this stage, because he's having trouble hooking up to the new system, is Craig Doc Gladigo. So g'day guys, how are we all?
Oh, fantastic, thank you.
We're both fantastic.
That's good in stereo too. I must say that at least at this end, it's looking. The new picture is looking pretty good as well. So it's just a matter of sort of trying to find my way around it at the moment. If I click on that, I get there. Let's try this. Let's see how we go with the chat box. And there it is. Box. Congratulations. I have already started praying for a miracle for Oscar. Yes, we will. There, thank you to our Paul Van Den Acker for saying both Facebook and YouTube seem to be streaming okay. Fantastic. Thanks for that. Thanks for that, Paul. It's a bit different, but as I said, I think certainly at this end it's not as high a resolution, but it seems to be a lot smoother, and I think the audio is better. Apart from Doc, are you still with us, Doc? Obviously not. I hear something. I hear a lot of very unfortunate noise.
There's a little bit of signal leakage going on.
Yeah, there's something happening. There's something happening there. I might just mute Doc at the moment while he tries to get that sorted. Out. But anyway, that's. Let's talk about the weekend, and let's talk about the on the streets of Adelaide. The grand final, a win to Chaz Mostert after some controversy, particularly in Sunday's race, after Brock Feeney got turned around fairly early in the race by Chaz Mostert's teammate in Ryan Wood. But first of all, what do we think? Pete, you're a regular consumer of supercars. What did you think of the grand final situation? I mean, it certainly made me more interested in watching it. It wasn't just another round. It had gravitas. It had the last race. There was a definite reason to watch it. So, what did you think of it all?
Yep, I thought it was good, and as you said, with ball sports, it's no different. Like, you could be, as Brock Feeney was throughout the season, he won all the sprint races, just the majority of the season, and under the old system, he would have walked it in, but he wasn't there on the day. Also because of the being turned around, but also he had an engine problem, and that's the way it goes. Like, you have AFL teams and rugby league teams at the top of the ladder all season, and they get into finals, and they either get out at one of the semi or preliminary finals or the grand final. And that's what I liked about it.
Mark, what did you think of it all?
Well, yeah, Pete does bring up the point that that we certainly both the ARL and the AFL this year that the NRL and the AFL, that the two minor premiers in Canberra and Adelaide both lost both their finals and exited the after being first, exited the finals in roughly fifth place or something. But and we lost Brett. But yeah, no, certainly. But here's Doc. Excellent. But certainly, yeah. I thought it was a fascinating
Yeah.
state of affairs in the course of the three races that we had over the course. The sprint race gave it on Friday gave us a little bit of a taster and a handy little bonus check for Freddie Kostecki and all those that had to happen over on Saturday and Sunday. We had a fantastic victory on for Brock. It was Brock, wasn't it? Yeah, Brock on Saturday, and
think it was-
when go Peter.
I think it was Chaz on both days, wasn't it? Saturday.
No. It was Chaz was second on on Sunday.
Yeah.
And Saturday his car was beaten up quite a bit over the course of the race.
That's right.
And
Yeah,
he sort of he kind of hit almost everything, but then had a really clean run on Sunday into second place.
Well, we also had the Friday race, like the so-called sprint race as well, which I don't think worked as well. I mean, I could see why that, but for a start, I mean, possibly because of the weather, but also there really wasn't much of a crowd there. I don't think that it added anything to the.
It was a gimmick.
It was a gimmick that was meant to lead into the 6 o'clock news on Channel 7, but.
It was to have something happening on Friday. Otherwise it's just we've had a day of practice and qualifying on Thursday already, and so a second day of no actual racing is not really perhaps the greatest look. I mean, sure they do it for Bathurst, but it's Bathurst. So yeah, I think it was very much like you remember the old Adelaide Grand Prix support act, which would start on. Did it start on Wednesday?
Thursday.
It was Thursday.
It was Thursdays. Yeah, but they had racing on the first day. Like they would get the HQs in to put on a race on the first day.
And that was always one of the strengths of the Grand Prix in Adelaide, is they always every year sort of featured a grassroots category. So you had HQs, you had sports sedans, you had historic touring cars, you had supercars.
Well, they had a denser support program across the board. There was all the the larger Australian championships were on board. Admittedly, we had fewer championships back then, so there was. It was.
And I think with the Ryan Wood thing, it's no different to in a grand final, players targeting other players, and that was premeditated by the team. And if you don't like it, give the driver who did it a penalty, but take teams' championship points off the team, because that was obviously a strategy within the team to do that.
I think the thing that looked bad was the reaction, from when they cut straight to the Walkinshaw, United garages, and Ryan Walkinshaw's there going, yeah! I thought it was a bad look, and I went back. My mind went straight back to that time at Le Mans years ago when Peugeot broke down in sight of the checkered flag at Le Mans, and they cut to
Toyota?
No, it's got Peugeot, and they cut to the Audi, team who had that reaction, and Dr. Wolfgang Ulrich, the boss of Audi Motorsport, immediately jumped up and said, "No, we do not. That's not how we want to win. We want to win on our merits, and that's terrible. Do not do that." and was very firm to say, like, let's have a bit of decorum there. Remember, these people, they were beating us on their merits, and they've had a mechanical failure, and they're out at the last minute, and we shouldn't be celebrating their misfortune. And I thought, that was always a really classy thing to do from Wolfgang and from the team from Audi, who later on, as I've said before on many occasions, actually took all of the top people from his team, walked down to the Peugeot pit garage and stood at the garage and gave them a round of applause as they were sort of and hugged them and just said, and said afterwards, this is not the way we wanted to win. They deserve to win. It's part of the race. It's just a mechanical problem, but we take no great joy in that. And to have sort of like Ryan Walkinshaw and his team sort of they turned him around. It looked really bad from that point of view.
But like I say, if you don't like it, penalise the team, because it was clearly a team strategy to do that.
Yeah, well, they sort of said that they were going to do it. Somebody pointed out, I think it was Paul Morris has pointed out that he basically said, we're racing in a team, and my job is to, for Ryan Wood is to say, well, my job is to do the best for the team and to try and win the race, but ultimately is to try and get Chaz up for the championship. So, and that's how it worked out. But
although it was kind of academic in the end with Feeney's engine issues.
Yeah. That was the other thing too. So like as and Jamie Whincup said himself, he said, look, we wouldn't have been up there. We were lucky to finish the race at all as a result of whatever was wrong. It was one of those annoying things that it obviously hit on Saturday. And they thought, they worked on it overnight and thought, right, we've got it, it's okay. And then it suddenly popped up back in the race. And those electrical gremlins can be very, very hard to track down.
It happened to Chaz in qualifying on Saturday, where they couldn't fire the car up for the second portion of qualifying.
That's right, I remember. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, anything that involves, even with your own road car, it's incredibly frustrating because, like, if it's a mechanical thing, you can have a look around and you might find sort of, a leak or a bolt or something missing, unless it's something obvious like a major lead that is off. You look at it, if it's an electrical thing, you just look at it and go, get the expert. I have no idea.
Auto electricians are witches and warlocks. I firmly believe that.
But
it's
it bodes well for the future because it sets up a rivalry, I think. So for the next final session, the next finals, if both Brock, Ryan, and Chaz are in the finals, it sets up a rivalry,
Oh well, you remember it was the 888 team who took the HRT, the Holden Racing Team status away from the team we now call Walkinshaw. There's a pretty healthy rivalry between those two already. It's and it's a fantastic thing to see that there's this level of passion, and it was fantastic. It was a fantastic occasion to watch. I thought I really enjoyed the. The purist in me sort of reaches out and smacks me over the back of the head and say, "Hey, you clown! That the championship should have been wrapped up in any other situation. Would have been wrapped up several races ago, but." We are in this new system. We're having a go. We're trying it, and unfortunately, it's kicked Brock Feeney in the teeth at the worst possible time in the worst possible place over the course of his championship campaign. It's all of his success throughout the year has been reduced to effectively to naught. But as you explained at the start of the show, Peter, that's exactly what happens in football and cricket. And all of the various ball codes,
and even NASCAR. Yeah,
Well,
you
the
can
interesting
be.
thing is NASCAR, are looking at that changing for that very reason. Is they're saying that like people are now starting to get annoyed at that and saying, well, hang on, we've had, we have people who dominate all year and have the perfect season, then they have one bad race somewhere along the way, and the next thing they're out of the, on the strength of one bad weekend. They're out of championship contention, and there's a backlash from the fans now, and also a backlash from sponsors. The interesting thing about it is it's now been absolutely confirmed that this whole concept has come. We can't really thank Supercars for the concept, because it basically came direct from the Premier of South Australia. He said in an interview with, I think it was 5AA, that as part of the negotiations to extend the contract, he said, we really, if we're going to do this, we really don't want a dead rubber. If this is going to be the grand final, it needs to count for something. It needs to be a grand final. It needs to have that gravitas. And that's what they sort of left it to Supercars and said, we need you to come up with a system that's basically going to keep the championship alive to that last race, and give it sort of extra input. So he was the one who really pushed it. And as I said, they've now extended the contract for another 9 years. They've locked that away. They were very happy. There was record crowds, probably, which of course had absolutely nothing to do with the fact that there was first a Lenny Kravitz, but more importantly an AC/DC concert. Although, Paul's saying that more AC/DC t-shirts than team shirts. That was exactly the same as
The Grand Prix. That happens when they offer a free concert at the Grand Prix on the Sunday, including the ticket. That happens at the Grand Prix in Melbourne.
And I remember when I went to Adelaide in 1995, one of the big things about that, the last Adelaide Grand Prix, was they had Bon Jovi in for the post-race concert, and that certainly bumped the race day crowd up on that one.
Well, that was the thing with the American Le Mans series. I mean, the American Le Mans series there that they had for that New Year's Eve, I mean, the place was pretty deserted, and at one stage I went back into town for something and grabbed a taxi, and the taxi driver was going, what's going on there? I mean, the NXS concert is on tonight, but what are they racing something? I mean, he didn't know, but I mean, the place was absolutely deserted until about sort of like an hour, 90 minutes before the race actually finished. Suddenly the stand started to fill up, and people were sort of looking in and going, oh well, we might as well hang around and see the end of this thing, whatever it is. And they could say, yes, we got 45, 50,000 to the American Le Mans series, where if it had been just the American Le Mans series, it wouldn't have been even half of that. But that's the way they do it for everything. I mean, most people who go to the Melbourne Cup or the Australian Open or pretty much and increasingly the Grand Prix are not going there because they're huge fans of horse racing, tennis, or Formula One. They're going there for the event. And that was part of the thing. And everybody who went along seemed to really enjoy it, the whole experience. And
And everyone who goes for the Grand Prix suffers.
Well, that's true, but I mean, if they could get the 120,000, 130,000 just for the Grand Prix and nothing else, then I'm sure they'd be happy to run that. And it's the same with this thing. Obviously, they were lucky this year that AC/DC happened to be touring at the same time. By the way, don't be totally surprised if at the Grand Prix there might be a concert at the end of this year's Grand Prix as well. It could be a bit soon, but I don't know whether it's been announced yet. But the Foo Fighters have got another tour of Australia coming up. I think they're going to announce that sometime today or tonight, and they said look out for some big things. So they're probably going to be touring sometime early in the new year. So if that's the case, they'd be a really good draw. I mean, they'd get a massive crowd if they could organise that.
I won't be there. I'll be in bed.
As long as it's not 30-odd foot of grunt who supported Bon Jovi that time in Adelaide in '95.
Whose band was that? That was
Russell Crowe's.
Russell
Russell
Crowe.
Crowe. Yes. Yeah, that's it. Yeah, I remember that now. Yes, he doesn't talk much about that nowadays, does Russ? But never mind. But yeah, look, I think it was obviously they were very happy with the crowds. The feedback from all of the local businesses in Adelaide was saying that the accommodation was at a premium. All the restaurants were totally booked out. Everybody was people who were ringing the 5AA were saying, oh, it was almost like the old days of the Grand Prix. There were so many people from interstate and so many visitors, and it was so exciting. And so I think that they probably we're going to see it. Whatever we as purists might think of it, I think it's pretty obvious we're going to see the grand final concept locked in for the
And I like it.
future. So, yeah, I mean, as I said, it made me far more keen on having a look at it because if it had been sort of wrapped, it would have been, well, okay, I'll watch the race, but it's just going to be a race, and we'll see who wins, but it doesn't really matter because the championship is wrapped up. As it turned out, it did go right down to the wire, and it threw up a slight surprise. And I'm happy for Chaz as well. I mean, Chaz deserves, after all of the the racing he's done over the years and the success he's had, he's never managed to pull off that championship before, and I think it's probably in the long term, at the end of his career, to be able to say at least that he'd won at least one supercar championship and could possibly win more. I think that's probably well deserved.
And on Sunday, I thought Walkinshaw was going to fall over themselves again because they had a wheel that wouldn't go on properly, and I thought, oh no.
Oh, it was all going on Ryan Wood's car, wasn't it?
And also Chaz's, like they had a wheel that wouldn't go on Chaz's car at one point, and I thought, oh no, you're going to trip over yourselves again.
Yeah, they've had lots of wheel problems, haven't they? Like right throughout the year, like a couple of the teams have had really bad problems, but with the wheels. So I know they'll be. Well, the interesting thing is, as you say, the rivalry now between Walkinshaw and Triple Eight next year. But it won't be a say. Oh well, it's it's going to be it'll be Ford versus Holden. Well, it'll be Ford, but it won't be Ford versus Toyota, and Triple Eight won't be Triple Eight won't be the General Motors team or the Toyota team. It'll be so Chaz said last night at the awards he is going to carry the number one.
Yes.
Which I think because he said he was keen to keep his 25, but I'm sure that Toyota marketing would have had a big influence of that and say, hey, it'd be really cool if when we make our debut, the opening round in Sydney Motorsport Park next year, we can get there and we've got the number one on the side of our number 1 and 2 on the sides of our new Toyotas. That would be very, very special. So let's do that, okay?
And to be fair, it's we've had this thing about the number one plate in Australia that there's this sort of thing about Australians not being all that keen on it. But you look back over people who've won it. It's come down to basically Peter Brock and Dick Johnson winning. They won 8 championships between them. And they all and they didn't wear number one. So Brock did in '75, but when his later 2 championships and all of Dick's 5 championships, they didn't wear number one during their reigning championship years. So it's just been because of 2 men that there's been this sort of reluctance to wear the number one plate in Australia.
Yeah. Just letting Doc know that we're still not getting anything. It's it was for some reason we're getting noise. We're getting a lot of noise, but we're not getting any camera, and all we're getting is buzzing. So perhaps we might have to work that out over the course of the week. But at the moment, it's just not working at all, unfortunately. So we'll have to see if we can find out what that problem is. But
it's given me flashbacks to the old the old mixing board at Queensland Raceway years ago.
But anyway, speaking of championships going down to the wire, this weekend the World Formula One Championship goes down to the wire after
a fun thing,
a win by Max Verstappen at Qatar on the weekend, despite the fact that Oscar Piastri pretty much dominated everything. But once again, McLAREN managed to snatch.
Speaking of falling over themselves,
oh God! I mean, what a mess! I mean, let's go through what happened. I mean, we basically saw there was a safety car came out. Every team said, right, let's dive in and grab some, those.
Well, it's the timing of it. Now. Yeah, the timing of it was there was exactly 50 laps left in the race, which meant that you could get your sneaky pit stop in, and then under the sort of pre-match conditions that Pirelli put in place, that the medium can't run for longer than 25 laps. That then meant that everybody was like, there was that opportunity to go 2 perfect stints towards to the finish, and even if it then compromised what could happen in one of those stints, because with everyone starting on mediums just about, that one of the stints then had to be either the hards or the softs, and however that was going to sort out. But yeah, it was just the coincidence of the timing that it happened at exactly 50 laps to go, and it made it like if the incident, and I can't even remember now what the cause of it was. Or who the cause of it was.
Was it Kimi?
Antonelli? No.
No. It was bought. It was one of the Saubers.
Ollie Behrman. No, that's not Sauber. No, he's
it was a Bortoletto.
Yeah, Bortoletto.
And somebody. Yeah. And often they had to clean up debris.
That's right. And
you can see that circuit is as wide as you can see that the probability of a safety car is very minimal because there's heaps of runoff. So,
they've had a safety car every year they've run at Losail. Yeah. So it's not exactly unusual for a safety car. I guess.
You have to wonder what McLAREN were thinking. I mean, and the worry was, I mean, like Juan Pablo Montoya has said this. He was saying that he thought one of the reasons that they did what they did is that they didn't. Number one, they said they didn't want to stack the cars, and they said and what he was saying was, he was concerned that they went, well, hang on, if we bring in Oscar and don't bring in Lando, we'll be accused of favouriting Oscar, and if we bring in Lando and leave Oscar out because he's in front, we'll be accused of. So
I think that's exactly what it was.
Let's just leave both of them out there, and
that's never worried them. That hasn't worried them all this season because they've been getting flack for favouring each of them equally over the course of the season.
I think they've become a bit sensitive to criticism, don't you think?
Yeah.
I mean, the team, they've carried all before them all year, and but there's been this constant, we in the first half of the year, it looked like Lando was getting a bit down until the mid-season break where he got his act together and came back, and now we've got and Oscar has had these incidents which either have done him badly or have the appearance of doing him badly, and it's all like and I think you don't like to use a term like gun shy, but it's almost like they're compromising their will to win the race in order to
Okay, so we've got Doc's vision at last, but your audio is unusable. I'll put it back. Yeah, so I don't know what's wrong at Doc, but at least we've got vision. So there you go. So Doc can smile a lot and nod and give us a thumbs up or a thumbs down, whatever. But at the moment, so I don't know what's happening with the audio there, but the system doesn't lie. But at least we do now have vision.
Yeah, Doc. I think Doc's done the Oscar and pulled the plug on the audio.
Yeah, so I'm not sure why that would happen. That's very strange. That is very strange, seeing that you and Mark and Pete came in so easily and so straightforward as before. So for some reason, this new software doesn't like Doc's setup for some reason. So we'll have to figure out what the settings are and why that's not working.
Just by the way, a rumor that I've just made up. Oscar has been in touch with Chaz Mostert to find out, to get some support on pulling off miracle championship victories.
Well, to see if Ryan Wood is available.
Well, yeah.
They could. They're going to get rid of Yuki anyway. I mean, you could shove Ryan in for the weekend. And
what's Nelson Piquet Jr. doing at the moment?
Yeah, exactly. Do your magic, son. Do your magic. The interesting thing is going to be if Oscar does get up and win the race this weekend, but still lose the championship. The first thing that everybody is going to do, including probably you, me, and everybody else, is to have a look at how much he loses the championship by to Lando, and would the situation at Monza make any difference? When he had to give that spot back.
Yes.
That would be very interesting to see if they say, well, if he hadn't have given that spot back, he actually would have won by 1 point. I think the other interesting thing was, and I think Kim Illman was saying, although Kim, I don't know whether Kim had had a few of these his champagnes beforehand, but he kept calling Oscar Lando all the time in his report. But nonetheless, what he was saying was very true, and seemed to be very true from what everybody's saying, is that Mark Webber in particular, and Oscar as well, and his people behind him are far from happy about the situation at the moment. Mark was very unimpressed, and that'll be put away into the file for the next when the next round of negotiations open. It'll be like, you want him this time. This time it's going to be none of this papaya rules bullshit. If you want him, he's number one driver, or otherwise we'll go somewhere where he will be number one driver.
Deja vu.
Yeah.
But the thing about everybody pitting, that's not unusual. That's happened before. I can remember, I think it was Belgium or Austria, where on the formation lap, there was something with the tyres, and Lewis Hamilton stayed out, and everybody pitted, and so it's not an unusual thing.
Yeah, that was. I think what it was in that instance was the track had been damp, and so everybody went out on wets. And once they did the warm-up lap, and they realised, you know what, wets is wrong. We should all be on slicks, and everyone came into the pits except for, as you say, Lewis, who started. We had the ridiculous situation of one single car taking the 5 lights, and it was one of those oddly hilarious situations.
They're going to have to sort
Motorsport
that out
produces.
because like as Lewis himself said for the weekend, he said it made a farce of that race. He said in terms of strategy, he said, because as he said McLaren even he said yes, they made a huge mistake, but effectively they were locked into that mistake. After that, the way there was very little they could do. They couldn't say, right, let's just keep driving and we'll just, we have superior, tyre performance. We can make our tyres last longer. We'll keep going. Oscar's got a good lead. We'll just keep going. But they couldn't do it because they had the compulsory pit stop at a certain time, and it was just they were locked into it. So once they got out of case with the entire sync with the entire field undercutting them, that was the end for both Oscar and Lando.
Well, I mean, to be fair, they were only beaten by Max. They beat everybody else.
Well, and
Carlos Sainz.
Carlos, for last, So
for
yeah,
third
well
place.
done.
So,
Well done. Williams have done very very well in this year. They've now moved into 5th place in the championship, in the constructors' championship. So that obviously means a lot of money. So that's good. That's good for Williams and good for Carlos.
who
Yes,
you
they're very
remember had
popular.
a pretty terrible first half of the year.
Oh yeah. So and he's so popular with with just about everybody. So, but it was interesting to see that shot of the shot of the presentation, the podium, and you had sort of Max looking like Max always does. Of course I won. I always win. Carlos absolutely beaming from the top, and Oscar just looking at the thing, looking going, that should have been a first place. That should have been a first place.
This was my race.
Yeah, this was because he did such a fantastic job, and you can tell there's obviously this sort of track, this sort of more wide open track with lots of high speed corners, obviously suits him a great deal better than like the sort of tracks we've seen at Singapore and Las Vegas and those sort of tracks, and even Mexico, which he clearly doesn't like. Now that he was at sort of like a more wide open traditional circuit, he was virtually unstoppable. I mean, over the weekend he was in great form.
And guess what kind of track we've got this weekend?
Yeah, well, that's going to be the interesting thing. In terms of how he goes, and it's going to also be interesting to how. Like McLAREN push it as well, because McLAREN already said, like last week, they asked Oscar, said, would you would you be prepared to sort of help Lando out? And Oscar said, no way. That's not going to happen this week. As every man for himself, and they could absolutely blow this in order to win. Basically, Oscar's got to win the race or at least finish second, and then he's got to wait for either Lando to either not finish or finish outside the top 10,
top 5,
top 5. So and then
which I don't think is going to happen.
So the best thing for him is for Max and Lando to take each other out on the first lap, and Oscar cruises around to third or fourth place or something, and just wanders in and gets a championship that a lot of people probably think he deserves.
And
there's a tremendous opportunity for Lewis Hamilton to pull off a get square on Max.
Oh, isn't there?
And for somebody to get on the radio and say to the race director, "Oh, this is so not right."
Yeah. So we'll see what happens. It's certainly going to be interesting. I mean, I think it's midnight Australian time the race takes place, so it's not too bad. It's not like a 3 or 4 a.m. job like this weekend was. It's going to be a far more reasonable time to go there. Let's see what happens. I don't know if Doc's been fiddling with any more of his. Oh,
how's that sound, guys?
Oh, there we go.
Oh, give us your F1 and Supercar wrap, Doc.
Yeah, okay. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, it's the Craig Lanigo Show.
Oh, no, I'm just glad to be on board. No. I'm just an Aston Martin Ghostbuster tonight. Did you see that post from Fernando? I'll add a little bit of light-hearted comedy to the parody. Did you hear that?
No.
When Fernando did his spin around uncharacteristically? Oh, yeah, you saw it, Pete, did you? Well, apparently he was asked about it afterwards, and he said, "I think there was a spirit in the car." There was paranormal activity and a spirit in the car. Whether he was in jest or not. But so Brett hasn't got our lower thirds up tonight, so I just put Aston Martin Ghostbuster.
No, I have got your lower thirds up. Yeah,
okay.
I've got.
Yeah, we can see that. Yeah,
it's just
it's up. It's there.
It's just because I never put one up because I'm not that witty.
That's all right. So yeah, I'm trying to get Bill Murray on online as well too. He's not answering at the moment. So anyway, that was
golf
great.
course somewhere.
Yeah, I think the old Bermuda Triangle. It was a big stuff up. I did hear what you said before, Brett, about Kim having he was standing in the media, around the media area, looking across, and he said, "Yes, Mr. M.W. Weber, who used to stand there, and he's steely eyes just glaring at Zach, and Zach's pretending not to. He's not looking at me. He's not looking at me." After he put the big on show, uncharacteristic over to Oscar and gave him a big hug in front of everyone deliberately to make sure everyone caught it.
That was just so obvious and so cringeworthy.
Yeah, and it's like Oscar's just standing there like, don't touch me.
But the thing was, both of them were penalised in that case. Both of them were penalised, so they didn't need to be so sensitive.
Well, they stuffed up for that's 2 races in a row. I mean, like in terms of like you imagine how different it would be if they didn't get any points last race. They were compromised this time. I mean, we got a second and a fourth for this race, where it should have been at least a first and a third. And possibly even a 1-2. So. Yeah, I mean, they've only got themselves to blame, and it reminds you of some of the worst, from the days of Ferrari, when it's like, and they shouldn't be for a team like that. You'd have to start asking the question, particularly in the off season. Okay, who's been responsible? Ultimately, who's responsible for all these mess ups? Not just this one, but right throughout the year, various pit stop mess ups and various strategy mess ups, and. Perhaps there's some help wanted adverts going out at the end of the season in Autosport, looking for new team strategists and engineers and all the rest of it to make sure that this doesn't happen next year.
We always have that circus every time of year for all the teams and speculation, and not so much the driver contracts this year because a lot of them are locked in. That was more dancing around last year, but. I think since the summer break, and I'll throw it out to all you, and everyone that listens and watches to us, and thanks to all the people that are commenting tonight, there's so many questions that are asked of teams on, is Lewis still viable for a spot? Ollie should take it, or are the rules, papaya rules right? There's just all Max, who's going to be the second driver, and should they incorporate someone better or to get more data, or is Yuki going to get? There's just so many questions this year, so many sideshow questions that everyone that aren't the usual ones.
We know the answer to a couple of those, or at least we will, a bit later tonight, because it might even have been announced now. But it looks like it's going to be Isaac Hadjar will join Max Verstappen at Red Bull. Liam Lawson will keep his position at Racing Bull, and Arvad Lindblad, the young British driver, will take over from Isaac Hadjar.
Just to interject, Brett, who's that? What was his name? The young fellow that won the F2 on the weekend, sewing that up because he won F3 last year.
He's Italian.
Exactly. The Italian, Pete. And that's right, because Kimi went and congratulated him straight after he got out the car. So the thing was, I don't know whether it was pre-planned or not, but up until that point of when he won it over the weekend, he didn't have a contract. He wasn't signed. There was no one. So
he's still not.
No,
it was announced now. That's what I mean. It was announced today. McLAREN have put him on with two. There's three drivers have been signed. So I don't know whether it was pre-planned, premeditated.
He's going to be their development, and he's not just been signed. He's going to be their development driver.
Exactly.
And test driver.
So that's just
they've grabbed him. They've jumped in very quick.
From obscurity. Yeah.
Leonardo Fornaroli is the driver's name.
Thank you very much, Jonesy.
Yeah, that came in a bit late for me to put in the bottom, and also, as Peter Fraser was saying, McLaren didn't want a double stack, situation reversed. They just double stacked Piastri in a flash. Yeah, that would be interesting, wouldn't it? Because, would they have been as hesitant to double stack if the situation had been reversed? If that had been Lando in front, would they have said just bring him in because it doesn't, as long as Lando's leading the championship, we got our focus is on Lando. If it causes problems for Oscar, then so be it. But no, they didn't. They didn't say that, obviously. So yeah, I think that's interesting. I think it's probably the case that. It's interesting that Martin Brundle, of course, has come out and defended McLaren and just said they've done nothing wrong. They did the right thing. It was one of those. It could have been a stroke. It could have been a stroke of. It just didn't work out exactly the way they wanted it to. But
he said before the race that pitting on lap 7 was too early, and I don't know whether he meant under greens or if there was a safety car, but he's definitely said before the race that pitting on lap 7 was going to be too early for anybody.
Well, he was clearly wrong.
Well, I think that came about because I don't think they could get 25 laps out of the softs.
Yeah.
But what that meant was the lap 7, then lap 8 safety car forced everybody's hand, and because making the softs last for 25 laps then became the better option than pitting a third time.
Just quickly, Brett, I like the carbon fibre square version with the ones down the middle of it while you're playing around with settings. But I think it was pretty much earlier on in that piece on the safety car, not only not whether you realise whether it worked or not, the pit, that you could tell they kicked an own goal, so to speak, because when Lando asked him on team radio, and you got that tone of voice and the dejected and the I think, questioning, have we made a mistake or something like that, straight away, McLaren, whoever it was on his engineer on the radio, don't worry about Max. They've sown their own seed. They've fixed themselves up. They have negated all their strategy. They're only stuck in one way now, which turned out to be completely wrong.
I think there was a lot of covering of bottoms.
Yes,
spot on.
Definitely. He's trapped himself into a strategy. It's a winning strategy, but he's trapped into it.
Yeah,
we've got flexibility to lose even worse.
And there's a couple of, and supposedly for a track that had no passing manoeuvres, there was a couple of nice sweepers there on that one. I can't remember what corner number it was, but there was some nice sweeping corners. A little bit of extra help on a couple of maybe a Mercedes engine going past another Mercedes engine, but on that speculation. But at the same time, there was some legitimate. Carlos, and no one's mentioned it. Carlos drove very well all weekend as well.
No, we did mention. Yeah, we did mention it. Yeah, we must say that. Unfortunately, Helmut Marko stuck his foot in his mouth again.
And so did Max's engineer with Kimi Antonelli.
Yeah.
What did Marko? Unsurprisingly,
basically they said that the Kimi got out of the road of
for Lando.
For Lando. And it's now led to the fact that both Red Bull, Marko, Red Bull have apologised. The FIA, all of the teams have come out because Kimi's been getting death threats, and he's had to go off. He's had to shut down all of his social media. Because he's literally been getting death threats from idiots out there going, you cost Lando So they're not a well-adjusted group. Some of the you sort of almost expect it from some of the
informed.
Some of the South American drivers and all the rest. They get a bit over the top and hot-blooded and silly and all the rest of it. But obviously this is fired up.
Let's put a bullet in the gun and let's spin the barrel and see which one comes up when I pull the trigger.
So anyway, they have now, the FIA have and Formula One, Liberty Media, and everybody have now all the teams have put out statements basically saying, stop, grow up, don't be stupid, stop it. The kid's done nothing wrong, and it's also been sort of, and Marko said, look, I probably jumped in and said something stupid in the heat of the moment, and in hindsight, we have no problem with what he did. So,
yeah, I was going to say it's not the Wild West here. They forget sometimes that, only takes one reprehensible comment from someone who does have a role to play in the main game, whether it be as a principal or an owner or a stakeholder or a major sponsor. If they come out with a comment, they're going to clickbait them every single time. So they've got a responsibility to say the right thing, which some of them do, as I said, get a little bit trigger happy with their silly banter.
Yes. Well, anyway, let's move on from there. Is there anything before we so we can move out?
Well, the support categories at Adelaide wrapped up their championships as well. We had Rylan Gray was the standout in the Super 2, so he was a thoroughly deserving champion.
May rest in peace. Super 2 is not going to be the same as it is next year as it is this year, unfortunately.
It will be the same, but it's not.
I'm talking about the teams that are pulling out.
Yeah, well, there's a couple of teams pulling out. Whether they decide to stay now that they've got sort of an extra year of being able to run the old cars, but I think that's going to be interesting how they pull all that together, because they've sort of said that already that they understand. Supercars are saying, look, we understand the cost situation, particularly with the engines for the new cars, and we're going to look at changes that might be able to be made to make that. So we might even end up with almost a Trans Am situation where you're going to have a supercar control engine that's going to run in Super 2, and a bit like sort of Xfinity in NASCAR, where they don't run to the same specifications, and all the Craftsman. So
the Craftsman trucks have a spec engine, an Ilmor V8.
Yeah, so they might end up doing something like that to try and keep it affordable, but there. So that was good. We also had the Carrera Cup.
Dylan O'Keefe.
To Dylan O'Keefe for.
We got cold feet in the last couple of laps, didn't he?
Yeah, a couple of there, and also Rodney Jane. Rodney Jane picked up the amateur
Pro-Am. Got the Pro-Am, got the red.
By just 10 points. It was very narrow between himself and Matt Belford.
2013 was the last time he held the cup, I think.
Wow.
Yeah. So that's so the return of the Jane family name to
the Pro-Am.
To the Pro-Am and to a championship. So congratulations to both of those guys.
Todd Hazelwood had already.
He'd already wrapped up to Trans Am, hadn't he?
Yeah.
I didn't see any of the Trans Am, unfortunately. How did they race? Were they good on the track?
Can't say I've seen all the stuff for Sunday yet either, unfortunately. Yeah.
I glanced at it, but I didn't see much of it.
Yeah, there was a bit going on in one of the. They were one of the categories that fell a little bit victim of wet dry stuff, and then there was also a couple of little bingles here and there, which I guess you kind of expect a bit for a category like Trans Am on a street circuit, and they were one of the. Saturday was one of the most. Was a ridiculous exercise for the support program. Only the Super 2s got in a clean race all day, apart from the main game, of course. But yeah, all of the other supports had either a safety car finish or a red flag caused by incidents but not exclusively at turn 8.
Yeah, because they kept pushing the wall out. So the time that had to be taken to fix the wall.
Yeah,
and the last of our support categories, Aussie Racing Cars wrapped up their championship as well, and that went to the very last corner of the race between Cody Garland and Joel Heinrich, and the pair of them powering out of the final corner on a slightly damp track, and with a bit of push and shove as they tried to, as Garland tried to get past Heinrich over the course of the last lap, and in the end there was contact and Heinrich spun into pit wall and Garland took the title. It was as dramatic finishes. It was the first of the series. They were the first to wrap for the weekend, but they were. We also had the most dramatic finish out of any of them.
Well, perhaps we'll get that this weekend at
Abu
Dhabi. I mean, perhaps that'll be the go. It'll certainly get there. Also, before we head up to what's happening over this weekend, and there's a couple of things still happening. Geelong the greatest team of all, apparently. Yes, I wasn't able to get down to Geelong this year, but they got clobbered by the weather, particularly on Saturday again. Yet it was the main issue was, of course, you probably saw on mainstream media, whenever, as they say in the classics, if it bleeds, it leads. And there was a crash involving a BMW down there, hit the concrete barrier, and came back onto the foot.
EV are worth over 100, I heard.
Yeah, so I'm not sure what the situation is. Apparently, the marshal concerned has some pretty severe foot injuries.
Have you watched the footage?
Yeah, I've seen it. For some reason, a couple of reasons, he didn't seem to sort of run. He looked as though he was one of those people who just sort of said that no, I'm behind a concrete barrier, I'll be fine. Because but if it was an EV, that's the problem. They're bloody heavy, those things. And they go very, very fast.
I've seen the footage as well too, and I concur on the whole lot. I am deeply sorry for the injuries or whatever he has occurred, but I'm probably with you on the thing. Thongs.
Yeah, I think that's going to be something that Motorsport Australia will clearly have an investigation into it. And I'm just wondering. I'm wondering, like, his position. I mean, in terms of, because of the nature of that event, we know that there's not everybody that's involved are necessarily motorsport people. So I don't know. I'm assuming he was a registered Motorsport Australia official, and but that might not be the case, and it might be but it would seem very, very strange that any experienced flag marshal in particular would actually wear thongs to
I'll throw it out there. Brett and I have been to the track many times over the years together, up to date, even as recently as a couple of weeks ago. And on occasion, and I do know the consequences, I have wore jean shorts. I don't wear the full length thing. And even though I know the rules and I know the consequences too, Brett's even reminded me, "Hey Doc, don't forget, you've only got the shorts on. You can't go here. You can't do this." And I go, "Of course, buddy." And I don't break the rules either, do I, Brett? If Brett reminds me, and I already know, I don't go anywhere where I can't wear where I shouldn't be wearing the shorts and not to protect the right amount of clothing for where I've been. Correct, Brett?
Yeah, well, that's it. I mean, the rules are there for a reason, and I know a lot of people. I know, Larry Perkins always said he used to say to any new sort of CEO at CAMS, as it was then, he said, "I'll know you've done a good job if you get rid of that stupid shorts rule," because you used to have, like, at the Gold Coast Indy, the ridiculous sight of all of the on the middle of a hot day, all of the local competitors in the support categories and the supercars, all in their full length. Their full-length jeans and pants and all the rest of it, and then they'd move out, and the IndyCar guys would move in, and the IndyCar guys were all wearing shorts, because it was not run under Motorsport Australia regulations. And Larry used to say, "This is ridiculous. I mean, this is an international category, and they're
especially
allowed
with ethanol fuel,
methanol fuel as well." Yeah.
Just on that, I know it's bullcrap and it's pap, but I was watching Martin Brundle's grid walk, and there was a lady, I don't know who she was, some pop star hanger on her.
Beyonce?
I don't know.
No, it was an athlete, I think, because there was some mention of gold medal.
And she said, I've had to come out, I've had to borrow some shoes because I was wearing sandals or something, and you're not allowed to have open top shoes on the track.
Grid.
Yeah.
Yeah, the rules are there for a reason, and as I said, it just seems very strange that like any sort of experienced marshal would be standing at the side of the track wearing thongs, because apart from the fact they're not going to give you any protection at all, they do make it hard to sort of turn around and run quickly or something. I mean, I don't wear thongs. I can't, for instance, I cannot wear thongs to drive in. I don't know how anybody drives in a pair of thongs. It's just even if I've got to take the rubbish bin out, which I've got to remind myself I've got to do after we finish this. If I'm wearing thongs around the house, they come on. I put a pair of proper shoes on just to walk down to the bin because they're very hard to move around in, and I can fall over. And I'm good at falling over. I don't want to make it easier for myself.
Speaking of, before we get on to the new things, and Pete, you can jump in with your usual pun at the end of this one. Just a quick roundup of last weekend. Still, I did the RHST, which is abbreviated for the Red Hot Summer Tour, and it's usually a part of pit lane. So this is why I'm mentioning it in the first place. Music. And I was down at Mornington. Can I please throw it out there? They haven't toured for a long time, and I did stay back and watch them. Angus and Julia Stone were absolutely amazing. I have never heard them live before. They were incredible.
They're very good. Yeah, they're very good.
Yeah, Angus. I didn't hang around for for Neil and Nick, and I don't know who drums these days. There's probably been a few of them, but Neil and Nick are the two main acts as well. Marky's brother was on earlier with Vicar and Linda. Vicar and Linda still got beautiful, strong voices. Oh, really? However, I was just doing some stuff in the crowd at one stage, and this is why I brought it up. A lady decided she wanted to lose her footing and go over in the garden and one come a big gutser. Anyway, so I was the closest nearby, and I went over and I asked her, first of all, is she okay? Is she okay? You're all right. You're all right. Then I said to her, I'm happy to give you a hand if you don't mind. You can use me. I can lift you up at the same time as long as I've got your permission. And she said, yes, absolutely. You know I'm heavy. I said, you know, heavy. I went, don't worry about that. Let's get you up. Anyway, one of the guys I worked with happened to sleep. It all happened as well, though, too. Wrapped as well. You can go over in the garden if you want to, because straight away he's over. Would you like a nice Red Hot Summer Tour T-shirt? What size are you, and what colour would you like? So, that's what you got to do. Now, Pete, do your usual pun.
I have one.
The one where I wish I could fall over in the garden and then I could get a T-shirt.
No, I can fall over in the garden.
Not off your feet though. I mean, lose your footing and lose your footing and go over in the garden.
You can go over. You can just get
fall down the step.
Yeah, that's it. Or back out of a lift. Yeah.
Well, that was a step.
That was a step. Yeah, it was crazy that. But yeah, it's easy. It is easy to fall over in any respect. You've got to be.
She was standing on the garden cobblestones and went over. It's her own fault. She shouldn't have stood up on them.
Yeah, but anyway, that's what Doc did on the weekend. Hey, listen, I think that's all we've got time for. We'll be back next week. Oh yes, let's point out what's a couple of things coming up this weekend. Yes, up at Winton, the Ken Lee 4-hour HQ race, the Memorial Ken Lee Memorial. They always have a really, really good turnout of cars and drivers for that event. It's now become sort of the main race of the season, apart from the HQ Nationals, certainly for Victoria, but even interstate. There's particularly South Australia. There's usually quite a few South Australians come over. People come down from New South Wales, and you usually get a few sort of higher profile drivers come in as well and have a bit of fun. Sort of end of year is finished, so that's coming up at Winton Motor Raceway this weekend. Also, fingers crossed, after 3 successive rainouts at Calder Park, which has absolutely destroyed their early season, hopefully we will finally get to the final round and the finals of the Summit Roll Racing Nationals, the Roll Racing Series out at Calder Park this Sunday. It's not Friday, it's Sunday. And because of all of the hassles that they've had out there, they've now changed the format. It was going to be an all-roll racing event. They've now added a drag racing component as well, because the drag races have been affected obviously as well. So basically, if you're into either drag racing, roll racing, or both, you're going to get the best of both worlds. This Sunday, not the usual Friday night. It's a day meeting. Sunday, 12 o'clock. the first race. There'll be drag racing from 12 till 2:30, and then from 2:30 on until about 5:30, there will be the roll racing, and that will culminate in the final round of the Summit Roll Racing Championships. So get out there. I think we've got some giveaways. I'll be on commentary. We'll be giving away. Hopefully, have some things to give away on that day, and just keep our fingers crossed for the weather, because it really has knocked us about very, very badly this year. And coming up the next week, I'll just give it a bit of a mention, because we covered it for many, many years. The following week at Calder Park, for over the 3 days, will be the Australasian Formula SAE Championship.
That's come around quickly.
Yeah, so that'll be up. That comes up the following weekend out at Calder Park. And if you haven't done it, I keep saying to people, if you're interested in, it's because it's not a race as such, but if you're interested in racing engineering and innovation, go out and check it out. It's free admission. We'll give you more details next week, when it will be the final episode of Full Course Yellow for this season. We'll wrap up all that's happened at Abu Dhabi with the Grand Prix. We'll bring up all the things. Hopefully, like fingers crossed. We'll hope for Oscar to have a miracle victory. Just quickly, anybody think that he can actually do it? Anybody tipping him to take the championship, or has Lando basically got it wrapped up?
I don't like the chances of Lando finishing lower than 5th. I think and Oscar will finish higher, but I don't. For Oscar to finish higher, Lando has to finish 5th, lower than 5th, and I don't think that's going to happen.
I think it'll be status quo on the positioning at the moment, where the points will change.
Yeah.
Well, I'm just wondering if that test of an RB7 at the Bend this weekend, whether Brock Feeney was going to step in and replace Yuki Tsunoda at Red Bull this weekend. Either way, there's it was it can happen, but I don't think it will. I think that
Sorry, go Jonesy.
Oh yeah, no, I think Lando will be the Lando Norris will be the 2025 champion. It definitely can happen that Oscar or Max could win it, but I don't think so.
Throw it back to Brett, but I don't want any Adrian Sutil comments, please, Brett. Please keep him out of court.
No, well, that's it's all alleged. Everything is alleged at the moment. Yeah, so we will say goodbye from Full Course Yellow for this week with the new.
No, you didn't give your prediction.
My prediction. I think that. I think that Max will possibly win the race, but I think Lando will take the title. I think he's, the only thing that will stop him is if he doesn't finish, and that'll be that. Then it's all bets are off. So the only thing, and you don't want to wish bad for anybody, but in Lando's case, I might make an exception.
Oops.
It looks like Dr. Marco has
Lando's parents have intervened.
Wow.
I think it's Dr. Marco who's hacked us.
He's cut himself off at the short and curlies there, but someone doesn't. Go, Pete.
I think, like, the difference between Mark Webber and Daniel Ricciardo is Lando's a lot young. Oscar is a lot younger, so he's got time on his side. He will be a champion.
Good point.
At some point.
Yep, I think you've got. Well, that's what I mean. Everyone forgets. I mean, it's only second season, isn't it? Yeah, so third season, and
he's in his 20s.
He's had one of the best cars underneath him, full stop. And I did see a comment. I don't know if you mentioned it earlier because I was trying to get my settings right. Was that Max came out, I think, was it before the last race, and said that if I was in a McLaren, I would have won this. He would have won this championship a long time ago.
He would have.
He said that more than once over the course of the weekend, and even said it with Oscar standing beside him at one point during the podium interview.
But obviously, Max has got a different relevance to the world these days himself, especially in the last 12 months. And also, with all the championships under his belt and, the experience he's got, he's hit that level that those two in McLaren have hit this year on a consistent basis. And probably to a certain extent, the car, even though it's the best setup of all the teams this year, I'm sure there's been differentiations where Red Bull's been stronger and it's got them through the year in a different way. Not that it might be the plank or the diffuser, because remember the regulations have changed and the rules over the years as well too. So Red Bull with Newey at it would have had a different sort of car that was strong in so many areas, where McLaren would have one that maybe half those areas, but a lot of other parts of the car were stronger as well too, which makes it a standout this year. So yeah, it's really.
Anyway,
go, Pete.
Yep. Anyway, we might wrap it up.
Absolutely. Yep, that sounds good.
Yep.
Sounds really good. I don't think Brett's going to join us. I couldn't jump on earlier, and the funny thing is,
Brett can't get back on.
You had a look at the private chat, did you? Yeah, that's all right.
No, I think what's happened is Ryan Woods kind of bomb dived the inside of Brett into the staircase corner.
There's so many puns we can use and so many jests. All right, very good. Thank you for joining us here on In Pit Lane. In Pit Lane, full course yellow version. And as Brett said, next week is our last one. So this is our penultimate one tonight, and last one we'll wrap it after the F1 season. 24 races done and dusted, and we'll probably have some points of view. So if you're watching or listening during the week, this one not live tonight, please join us sometime next Tuesday night when we're live and contribute, especially all the listeners and watchers throughout the whole year. And thank you, Jonesy. Thank you, Pete. Thank you, Brett. And thank you, Linesman and Bull Boys. We'll catch you next week. Hit that button, Brett, and see whether we're